Hey, Morgan, how is everything going? We should do a test for audio purposes before we get started. Am I sounding okay? Are you sounding okay? I actually might need to check my mic settings. Hang on a second. Give me a second.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. I was kind of rushing in here last minute. Okay, so now I should sound a lot with my actual microphone instead.
Yeah, I think that sounds better.
Yes, good. Okay, well, we have gathered together to talk about something that is a one-off issue for Supergirl's purposes, but I think in a broader context, Morgan, you might need to fill us in because I believe that you are familiar with the Stephanie Brown comic book storyline of sorts. So I'll probably rely on your Batgirl knowledge because I have very little. So
it's been a while since I've read this as a warning. So I don't remember as much about the run as I thought I did, but I was like, oh man, I should really reread this run.
You should totally remember this. This was just from 2009. It wasn't that long ago.
It was like yesterday.
Might as well have been. So we're going to be talking about Batgirl number 14 from 2009 to 2011. That sounds weird. 2009 to 2011. Should I just commit to 2011?
I guess
2009 to 2011 run of Batgirl, where Supergirl makes a little appearance for a spooktacular issue. So since it is close to spooky season, we've decided we would try to have a Supergirl Halloween-ish episode to discuss. So we are going to go ahead and get started, and then we will go ahead and discuss this issue.
McGurk! I love typing.
Not mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira. I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom, because
she looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor, like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. It's so fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Yes!
Welcome to Supergirl Radio, your source for all things related to the character of Kara Zor-El. My name is Rebecca Johnson.
I'm Morgan Glennon.
And for this episode of the podcast, and to read something special for spooky season, we are live and wired to discuss and review Batgirl 2009 to 2011, number 14, which was written by Brian Q. Miller, pencils by Lee Garbett. Trevor Scott was the inker, Guy Major was the colorist, letters were by Travis Lanham, Stanley Artgerm Lau was the cover artist, and Michael Sigling and Sean Ryan were the editors. So this is I think a one-shot Supergirl Batgirl team up versus some Draculas, which we'll discuss how those actually came into being. I have a lot of questions about the science of this.
I think it's bound.
So we'll figure it out. We will be able to explain all of it. So this is the issue description for this one. It reads, quote, when Supergirl decides to get away from it all and visit Stephanie Brown on the campus of Gotham City University, a quiet, relaxing weekend turns into a monster movie mashup. After a science experiment goes horribly wrong, 24 black and white Draculas are brought to life, and Batgirl and Supergirl are forced to become vampire hunters in order to stop an army of the celluloid undead, unquote. And so, Morgan, I think the premise of this is very fun. I think it's a very fantastical sort of Halloween, spooky kind of story. And I think it's something that Batgirl and Supergirl definitely need to handle together. So I was curious, Morgan, since this is involving Stephanie Brown, who I think you are a fan of, if I remember you telling me that once. What do you think about Supergirl coming over to Gotham City University in Gotham and hanging out with Batgirl?
Yeah, I thought this was really fun. So I read this the Stephanie Brown Batgirl run like years and years ago, not as it was actually coming out, like a little bit later. I think for some reason I might have been interviewing somebody involved in that for something, and I was like, oh, I should really like catch up on catch up on it. So I also didn't have like a lot of knowledge of like what was going on larger in the DC universe at the time. I was just like, okay, sure, I'll read this Batgirl run. I think at the time as I was reading it, I was like, wait, there's different Batgirls?
Oh yes.
Yeah, I didn't I remember falling down a rabbit hole of being like, okay, Barbara Gordon and Cassandra Cain,
Yeah,
and like, who's this? So Stephanie Brown was really kind of my introduction to Batgirl, which is fun and weird, because it's nobody else's. But I think that she was a really fun Batgirl, and I think that this run on Batgirl, where she was Stephanie Brown was Batgirl, was really well done. I think Brian Q. Miller does a good job on this. I think that she's like a fun character. She's got like a little bit of a, tragic kind of funky backstory where her father was like a supervillain, and she's kind of trying to like atone for her father's like villainous action. So she's a fun character, and I really like this interaction that she has with Supergirl, where Supergirl like comes to hang out, and then they end up getting in hijinks that they have to like fix themselves. And Supergirl, I think, in this issue is really kind of a fun contrast to Stephanie, who's like kind of like like, my life is kind of boring and all I do is work, and Supergirl is like, let's hang out. Isn't it so cool that you go to this university? Like, where's what's the happening thing? And Stephanie's kind of like, I don't know. Like, I'm like a Bat family member. I don't have like a social life.
I don't hang around with other people.
I don't talk to people. I liked this version of Supergirl who's kind of like parachuting into the story.
Literally.
Yeah, very, very much.
I mean,
so.
not literally with a parachute,
up.
but
Yeah.
like she flies in.
She just flies in and it's just like, hey, let's have a good time. And then obviously everything goes awry. So I thought that this was a fun one. And I think it's like a pretty good example of I remember there were things in the run that got like a little heavier, but I feel like for the most part, it was a little bit more light and fun. This run on Batgirl. So I think it's like it's not an exact representation of the run because there's not as many Draculas in the rest of it.
This was the capacity for Draculas. It sounds like
Dracula capacity, but a pretty good sampling of what it kind of felt like to read this run.
Yeah, it seems like if Supergirl flies into Gotham wanting to hang out with Batgirl to have a good time and just hang out, this seems like something that would be how they would hang out, though. Like,
yeah,
I don't think just going to a movie would be interesting to them. I think the movie would have to have Draculas coming out of the screen and fighting them and biting people. I think that is their version of a good time. So I think the premise of this is pretty good. And I think especially it feels like it might be a part of a larger storyline, but it feels like a really fun one-shot storyline that you could just read from beginning, middle to end, and you're finished with the story. And so that's what I liked about it, is that I didn't feel like I needed to have been in the Batgirl run. I could just read it as the Supergirl Batgirl team up, and I was cool.
Yeah,
so I feel like that.
I feel like the run overall, like, I went into it with like no knowledge of like what was going on in the greater universe, and I felt like I was mostly fine. But I remembered this issue did feel very standalone, and when I reread it for the podcast, I was like, oh, it's even more standalone than I remembered. Like, you can really just like come into this issue, read it. Like, this could be something that you just like hand to somebody who has no background in these characters, and I feel like they would still have a really fun time, which is not always the case with all comics. Sometimes you open it up and like on page 2 you're like, I'm in trouble.
Yeah, I don't know what is happening. I don't know who these people are.
The editor's notes aren't helping.
So speaking of the backstory, Mind the Gap in the chat shares that Stephanie became Batgirl during the period when Dick Grayson was Batman, and Mind the Gap says, I remember loving this time in Batman comics. I guess that segues into a question I had about Stephanie Brown. Was that so? Stephanie Brown at the beginning, she's just like hanging out with her mom playing Scrabble. And so, does she not have access to the Batcave? Does she not get to like do Batgirl things in the Batcave? She's just like chilling at home. Is that where she? Because most of the Bat family, I would say, your Bruce Wayne, your Dick Grayson, your Jason Todd, your Tim Drake, they all live at Wayne Manor. But Stephanie Brown doesn't seem to. Well, and Barbara Gordon lives, I guess, Commissioner Gordon is her father. But Stephanie Brown doesn't seem to live at Wayne Manor. Is that feels different to me? Is there an explanation to that?
My memories, again, incredibly sketchy. Was that she lived at home with her mom? she still lived at home, and like that she wasn't really living in the Batcave. That's a great question though that you asked. I was suddenly starting to be like, wait, was she? Did she have? She must have at least had access to the Batcave.
So if I'm going to become Batgirl, I want a room at Wayne Manor. I feel like I'm owed that as a member of the Bat family. I would roll up in there and be like, okay, where's my room? You have this big house. Where's my room?
Excuse me, I must get into the Batcave.
I mean, she's in college, right? She's going to Gotham City University. Why maybe she doesn't get a dorm room, but maybe she could get a room at Wayne Manor and stay there when she's doing college stuff.
I feel like very reasonable. Like just be able to kind of pop in from time to time, right?
So I thought that was really interesting that she's living at home with her mom while she's going to college and doing Batgirl stuff.
I did. So I did check in on this from Wikipedia because it was bothering me. And the first part on the Stephanie Brown Batgirl section of the character, which, by the way, like the little cursor at the side is this big. So there's a lot of stuff for Stephanie Brown. This is like her whole Wikipedia page, but it says she graduates from high school off panel, is a student at Gotham University, and is still living with her mother. So it does appear that she is still living at home.
I just don't know what the benefit, except for maybe helping the citizens of Gotham City. What is the benefit of being Batgirl? If you don't get a room at Wayne Manor, you don't get to have a butler, you don't get to live the rich life. What is the benefit of being Batgirl?
I mean, I guess you get the costume and
putting your life in danger.
I'm skimming this, trying to remember. I had actually kind of forgotten this, but it says that Barbara later takes a job as an assistant professor at Stephanie's school to keep in contact with her.
See, I like that. I think Babs could teach a class.
That's fun. Yeah, I would take a class by Barbara.
I bet her class, Barbara Gordon teaching a college level course would probably be very hard. You would probably have to be very smart.
I don't know that I would pass it.
Oracle's teaching a class? No, thank you. I would fail.
I don't want to take that.
That would be so hard. I would be so intimidated to take a class taught by Oracle. Oh man. Yeah, so that is so that was the stuff that I was thinking about when I first started reading this issue, was like, well, why didn't she get like a Bruce Wayne Manor situation things happening? So that was kind of my entry point into Stephanie Brown, was like being upset on her behalf that she doesn't have a room at Wayne Manor. So maybe she does somewhere down along the line, but I didn't see it here. So I was upset on her behalf. Okay, so the thing about this issue that is unique is that Supergirl and Batgirl are hanging out in Gotham City, and they go see a movie. They try to figure out what they're going to do in the college life, and so they decide they're going to go see a movie. I forget what the movie is called. It's like Vampire Bride something. What is the name of the movie?
That's a great question. It was something strange. I think it was Vampire.
Vampire's Bride Revival, and vampire is spelled YRE.
Vampire
Bride Revival. So they are going to go see a vampire movie, and Dracula's come out of the screen. Now, Morgan, I was curious because I was struggling to kind of understand how the Draculas were created. So it's funny, Morgan and I are going to be reviewing Scream 3 for the Patreon for spooky season. And I actually went back also and rewatched a little bit of Scream 2. And Scream 2 has the opening sequence, the big opening kill in that movie is in the movie theater,
yeah,
where everyone in the theater is what an insane concept that the movie studio would have sit everybody in the theater, ghost face masks and like fake knives. Like, what an insane thing for them to do. But in the movie, the premise is that this couple is going to see the movie and they get attacked while they're in the movie theater. So while I was reading this, I was like, it's like Scream 2 at the beginning of Scream 2.
Oh my God, it's just like Scream
2. So they're in the movie theater and some Draculas come out of the screen. And what the comic says is that there's this young college-aged guy who's working in a lab. And he says that the lab that he's working in it was working on a way to generate hard light, or what a layman might call a force field, trying to create a three-dimensional construct that an image could be projected onto. The lab overloaded, but it seems the theater took the brunt of the blast. It only lasted for a second, and since film runs at 24 frames a second, you've got 24 Draculas. So 24 Draculas come out of the screen to attack everybody in Gotham City. I was confused about this. Like, I can kind of go with that explanation, but did the blast like physically hit the movie theater? Does that make any sense? Like, how would it have how would it have taken the brunt of this lab experiment gone wrong?
I think it's like the lab is maybe next to the movie theater.
That would make sense to me, because at one point Stephanie and Kara are watching the movie and they're like, oh, that seems unusually bright. And so I think the bright light is the kind of the explosion in the lab that goes wrong. Is that how you read that?
I think so. And like when Kara and Stephanie are outside like walking around trying to decide what they're gonna do, the student like runs by them and like collides with them with all of his papers, and then kind of runs off into what looks like a doorway right as they're about to go to a Vampire's Bride Revival. So I think maybe the lab is supposed to be either across the street or right next to the movie theater. So maybe it's just that when everything goes wrong with his machine, it just happens to be like a proximity thing.
So then I have a question. I'm really overthinking this issue, I think. But why would you build a science lab near a movie theater? Or why would you build a movie theater near a science lab? That feels like it's some sort of public safety issue.
Maybe they only build their labs next to movie theaters.
maybe they really wanted to just see how they could make a movie come to life, literally.
The thing I like is that it doesn't say this on the movie theater poster outside, but this is a 3D movie.
Yeah.
It's 3D Draculas, which I think is very fun and also very funny. Like, who spent all this time to do like a transfer of an old black and white movie into 3D? Because like that doesn't just happen.
Well, this could have been, I mean, back in was it the 50s, 60s? Like 3D was a big deal. Like everybody did 3D. Yeah, 3D movies were like a big deal back then. So I don't know if this would have been, well, I think in the comic it says they converted an old movie to 3D, but I don't see why this couldn't have just been an old movie that was 3D. Also, I'm
Okay.
overthinking that too.
No, I like that because I was like, wow, they put like a lot of time and effort into this into this special showing of this movie. They turned like an old movie, a black and white movie, into 3D. But it makes more sense, like you said, when they figured out the 3D technology, they were like, cool, let's do everything 3D. And then they were just showing that 3D version of the movie. It doesn't sound like it was like, like a banger that everybody had heard of. So
You don't think Vampire Bride Revival was a big hit?
it just seems like the Draculas are like too sad in it for me.
Oh yeah, they're all alone.
They're just so sad. Because he couldn't revive that bride quite yet.
I feel like Vampire Bride Revival should be more about the bride. I
think,
wasn't getting a lot of bride perspective.
yeah, like where's the bride? Why doesn't she get to have some fun and cause some havoc? But yeah, the thing I like you mentioned about the Scream 2 parallel is that because it's 3D, people are like, whoa, it's so realistic. And then like one guy's like, I think it bit me. It's like, man, it's so real. They really went all out this year.
And I feel like maybe we should have had a follow-up with that guy. Is
I
he
know.
okay? Like, did he
Is
turn
he a
into one of
vampire
them? I assume he's a vampire now.
He's just like stumbling around the campus being like, blood.
I think Supergirl and Batgirl just kind of gave up too easily after they defeated
They were like, we did it, we're done. But they didn't know that guy in the front row,
they're still a
he's
vampire
right
out on the
now.
streets.
Well, it's also really funny timing wise, like you mentioned the Scream 2 thing, but I have been watching recently, rewatching for me and watching for the first time for my husband Mike, Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh yeah.
And so this felt like such a good like fun read during that. I was like, yeah, everybody's slaying. And this would have been I think came out, you said was it 2009?
Yeah, 2009 to 2011. I don't know when exactly this issue came out.
So probably like the middle of the run. So sometime probably 2009, 2010, which would have only been like less than like maybe 5 or so years after Buffy like wrapped up. So I feel like you can really feel like the Buffy vibes in this issue. Like they're both blonde, they're slaying all the vampires. I was like, I'm getting big Buffy vibes from this. Like said from the person who's just spent like like 100 hours watching Buffy.
Do you know who was also in Scream 2?
Who?
Sarah Michelle Gellar.
She was in Scream 2?
I think that was Scream 2. Yes.
No
That was
way.
Scream 2. Yeah, she was in the beginning. She's in the film club at the college with
Oh.
Joshua Jackson from Dawson's Creek.
They had so many good cameos in those Scream movies.
It does not end well for Sarah Michelle Gellar.
I didn't
Spoiler
think it did.
alert.
I mean, listen, she was also in I Know What You Did Last Summer. So she was having like a Scream Queen moment. R.I.P. Helen Shivers.
Oh man, they don't make horror movies like
they really don't
used
make
to.
the slashers. They were so fun.
I don't like scary movies anymore. I don't like really like horrific like Saw like
No, I can't
scary
do
doll
it.
movies. I don't like,
Mm-mm.
but I love the Scream movies, and I love I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Oh, me
Love 'em.
too.
Love
Me
'em.
too.
Those are good ones.
I just feel like they're not so intense and they're not that scary, honestly. So
Yeah.
you can just kind of like throw it on in the background. It's like I can't deal with like the Saw movies because those things are insane and too
Yeah.
gory for me. But give me a Scream any day. It's like a relaxing movie for me. I'm just kicking back with that.
Yeah, Sarah Michelle Gellar. Lots of nods to SMG here on the podcast this week. So the Draculas do come to life here, and I guess in talking about vampires, since you are a Vampire Slayer fan and know lots about vampires, I'm assuming. Why? I guess. What is your take on the Dracula of it all in this issue. Do you think it was a bit like a, I don't know if you can even say it's like a faithful adaptation of Dracula or vampires? What is your take on the use of Dracula in this issue?
I think I like this Dracula in this issue. I think all the Draculas were really fun. He's got like the old kind of classic Hollywood Dracula, widow's peak, high collar, cape. He's got the whole Dracula vibe. He's gone like classic Dracula. A lot of vampires nowadays, they're sparkling, they're sexy, they're mysterious.
They play baseball.
They play baseball.
That's my favorite thing about the Twilight series.
Me
Like,
too.
what? Why are they playing baseball?
It's not just America's pastime. It's also Edward Cullen's. This Dracula, we're going back to a more classic, a more like Bela Lugosi Dracula. This guy, he can't play baseball. He's like that cape is gonna really ruin the aerodynamics.
Yeah, it's gonna slow him down.
Yeah, it's gonna slow him down. He can't round the bases with that thing.
Yeah,
I like a good classic Dracula. He's not Nosferatu Dracula. He's like Dracula in the castle in Transylvania. I want to suck your blood, Dracula.
Yes. Yeah.
But he's also lonely. He's also so sad.
He does have a lot of emotions and some real big feelings. I also like that he stays in black and white even when he comes into the real world.
Yes, I like that too. It actually, this is so embarrassing. It reminds me of an episode of the Nickelodeon 1990s children's TV show, Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Why is that embarrassing?
It's not embarrassing. I'm proud of it, and I stand behind it. I still remember this episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? And that I always will for my entire life. I will forget people's names, but I will remember this episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? But there's like, in the episode, there's like this old movie theater that plays old movies, and they're trying to save it, but it's going under. And then they play like one of those old Nosferatu movies, and then Nosferatu comes out of the theater, like creepy hand first out of the theater. And then he looks like black and white like he was in the movie.
Yeah.
And he's kind of like creeping around the theater trying to kill. It's some actress who ended up going on to like have like a larger career. But it's like the teeny, like the wee version of her in Are You Afraid of the Dark? And he's like chasing them around, and he kind of looks black and white. So that's what this reminded me of. So it's like, obviously Dracula coming out of the screen. It's a classic.
Yeah, it is
and he's still black and white.
Yeah.
It's spooky. It's spooky.
This one though comes out because it is associated with the film. The comic is correct. Most films are shot at 24 frames per second because that's kind of how your eye processes images. Mm-hmm. For example, like if you watched the was it the trilogy? The second trilogy of Lord of the Rings movies was like famous for doing 48 frames per second, and people were like, "Oh, what is this?
Oh, really?"
Yeah. I didn't mind it so much, but people were saying, there's a big difference in the 48 frames per second versus the 24 when you double it up.
Eyes, you're so tired.
But Peter Jackson was like, "I'm gonna try something. I'm gonna experiment with it.
I have faith in your processing abilities. You guys can do this.
If I'm just going to make up more movies and add to this story of characters and things that didn't happen, I might as well just experiment with frame rates too." So 24 frames per second is the typical shooting frames per second for film and some television. Most television that looks like cinematic film. It's so this is like nerdy stuff I used to do for my day job. So a lot of film, a lot of cinematic television that you will see now is actually shot in 24 frames per second. But then when it's broadcast On television, it's usually converted to 30 frames per second because that's how television is broadcast.
Oh.
But if you are just watching it on a streaming service, they're probably going to encode it at 24 frames per second. So it will be the native frame rate. I'm going to stop talking because nobody cares about this. But
no, I think this is cool.
But if you're watching something on one of your favorite streaming platforms, it's probably going to be whatever it was shot in. So the old way of broadcasting television would have to be converted to that 30 frames per second. You would think, is 24 and 30 that much different? Yes, there's a difference. There's a big difference between 24 and 30. So what I thought was interesting about this is that using that frames per second of film and then creating these 24 Draculas, it gave Supergirl and Batgirl something to do. It wasn't just like Are You Afraid of the Dark, where they have to deal with the one Dracula.
Just the Nosferatu wandering around. Yeah, like these are superheroes. Like they would get through one Dracula too fast.
Yeah.
24 Draculas, that's going to take a second.
Yeah, one would be like a page and done. I think.
It's like now we're done with the story.
So this one though, they do have to search around for the various Draculas, and the Draculas get up to all kinds of shenanigans.
They really do.
Yeah, one of them goes to the club and dances with
one
the
of
lady.
the Draculas in the club. maybe he found the goth club.
Oh yes, maybe this is the Midvale Goth Club.
Midvale Goth Club. It's very popular. I feel like he would do well there.
Yeah.
maybe then that would be a different story, because like he, instead of being alone, he like finally finds his people. He's like, no, they like me.
What if he found love in that goth club?
Oh my God.
And then he wouldn't be alone anymore.
That would be beautiful. That's how it should have ended.
So one of them's in the club. One of them is in a photo booth with Supergirl. There's one where it looks like it's outside the ice cream store. They're on like a scooter chase.
The scooter chase was my favorite one.
It's like a Segway scooter kind of thing.
Yeah, you don't see Dracula on a Segway all that often, like in fiction and in literature. And I think that he should be on a Segway more often.
Okay, I have a question. Since I've just already committed to overthinking this issue, why would he not turn into a bat and then fly?
That's a great question. I mean, if I'm also overthinking it, how does he know how to operate a Segway?
This is also a quick learner.
That should be like, what?
It looks like he's alone. It looks like he's speeding away, so he got it handled pretty quickly.
Out really quickly. He's like, I have naturally, I have great balance. He also goes on to like a Ferris wheel.
Yeah. There's like 3 of them on the Ferris wheel.
There's a lot of them on the Ferris wheel. I really like the way that they have this 2-page composition with all the different Draculas in random places. And the Ferris wheel is one of my favorites as well, because Supergirl and Batgirl are both like battling Draculas on different parts of the Ferris wheel, because there's so many Draculas.
What do you suppose were the Dracula's goals for getting on the Ferris wheel?
Maybe, you know what? Maybe they just wanted to see what everything looked like from way up high.
Maybe they just needed some height. They just needed a new
point,
perspective.
Though, I do feel like he could have turned into a bat and accomplished that just as well. But he was like, the children seem happy.
The question I had about, so there is a full 2-page spread that talks about the different Draculas and what they're up to. There's one that has an airplane ticket.
Yeah, this was okay. I also had a question about this. So am I to believe that Dracula like went to the airport and he was like, Prague, and they were like, sure, you black and white Dracula man. What did he pay with? Like, he has the ticket.
He didn't buy a ticket.
He got the ticket. Did they get him? But I'm assuming they got him before he got on the flight, because could you imagine what that flight would be like by the end when it lands in Prague?
Oh, no, everyone's vampires.
It's It's like on the plus side, we got him. On the minus side, everyone's a vampire in here. Oops. So I'm assuming they got him before he got on the plane. But also, like, he's really adapted to modern life so well. He's riding the segways. He's getting a plane ticket. I would love to see Dracula's. I think Dracula would be an amazing Instagram influencer.
Oh yeah.
He's like, hey guys, get ready with me as I go to the fair and then fly home to visit family in Prague. I'm so alone.
Now, would an Instagram influencer get economy class tickets?
I don't think so. I think he would be fun. And I honestly feel like, listen, if you're Dracula and you live in a big castle in Transylvania, that's in my head, because this is the vibe he's giving. I think that you could spring for you could spring for premium economy.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand that this was 2009 and such a thing didn't exist yet. I think you got like a little bit more leg room there. You didn't have to pay to breathe on planes quite yet.
I mean, if you're going to Prague,
but if you're going to Prague, like
get the best
for
seats.
Business,
yeah.
Then he could do this and like he could put down the seat that he's like the lie flat seats, and he just crosses his arms over his chest and just goes straight back down.
And it would be so dark.
Good night. Somebody starts to open the window, and he's like, "No, you must not."
I actually kind of wish they hadn't stopped the airplane, Dracula.
Me too. Okay. So this is funny because, again, I've been watching a lot of Buffy, and there's an episode in Buffy where Angel is Buffy's vampire boyfriend. He's a vampire with a soul. We love Angel. He's like, I have to go take this like dangerous artifact far away from here and like get it out of the way. I can't take an airplane because I would burn up into it. Too risky. So I have to, he was going to travel in like a cargo ship. But I like that this Dracula is like, I think I'll be fine on the plane.
So what would have made him burn up? Would it have been like all the
like if somebody opens the window during the day, Angel would have been like, ah, and then like caught on fire. I guess this Dracula is just like fine with it, or he's just like not he doesn't really understand international air like plane travel maybe, and he's just like, I will get window seat.
I guess someone just recommended, hey, you should go to Prague. It's a great trip. And so he has no idea what plane travel is.
He bumped into somebody and they were like, your Dracula costume is so sick. Have you ever been to Prague? And he was like, no. Should I?
So what I'm hearing is Supergirl and Batgirl should have let this Dracula just get on the plane.
I think that honestly, many of these Draculas had a sense of whimsy that I feel like they should have just seen what was going to happen. They were like, okay, save the people in the club.
Yeah.
But like, who was Segway Dracula hurting, really? You couldn't have let him go to Prague and, see the sights before you had to slay him. I just feel like they're just jumping to conclusions a little bit with the Draculas.
Okay, one more Dracula plane question.
Sure.
Could he have taken a red eye?
That's a good question. I feel like that's definitely what he would want to do. Yeah. But then the problem with taking a red eye is you might arrive at your destination during the day.
When the sun has come up.
And then it's like, now what do? He's like, I must stay on plane
forever.
Just a couple more hours.
So not a really good alternative for Dracula with air travel.
Air travel is tough for a Dracula. That's I've learned that. And I was thinking about it as I saw the plane ticket. I was like, oh, Angel would never.
So Angel, I feel like I should know about Angel because I watched a lot of Angel when I worked for Turner, and Angel was on TNT, but I don't remember.
Angel was always on TNT.
I guess he was like appearing at night a lot.
He mostly appeared at night.
Okay.
Mike and I have been laughing because they really skirt the daylight rules. Like it's like the letter of the law, but not the spirit of the law. I guess probably because the actors were like, please, I haven't seen day in so long. I am now a vampire. So like he'll be in his office with like in broad daylight. He's just like, as long as he's not in a direct patch of daylight, he's fine. It's like, yeah, but it's pretty bright in there. Or he'll be like standing in a shadow outside, and you're like, I don't think that should be how it works.
Yeah, that seems like a cheat.
This seems like we're cheating now. We're just straight up cheating. So maybe those are the kind of rules that this Dracula is dealing with. And he's like, as long as no sunbeam, I'm good.
Mark has a suggestion for Dracula. Take the red eye. The sun would come up during the layover in Atlanta. So
that's
you just have to be strategic.
You just have to trip plan. I don't feel like he's one of those people who trip plans, though. I feel like this Dracula is more sort of a fly by the seat of his pants. He's like more of a yes to everything Dracula. He's going through his like yes phase.
Okay, so since we've been talking about the different Draculas, though, now I have a question. Are all the 24 Draculas the same guy? Or are they 24 separate Draculas with their own individual like identities?
It's interesting because they all do seem like they're sad. So they all seem to be sharing that same sense of sadness. They feel sad and alone, and they're complaining about it. And it seems like that's the only thing that they can talk about. On the flip side, they're all doing different things. Some of them are going to a carnival. Some of them are going for ice cream. Some of them are taking photos in a photo booth just of themselves. So that's
would the light affect him in the photo booth? Isn't there like a flash?
I mean, listen, if Angel can be outside in a shadow, in like just the shade, just like under an awning, like I'm okay. It's like you shouldn't be. I think that like the flash is probably fine. Although in many different vampire stories, vampires don't have a reflection.
Oh, right.
And so the question of do they photograph, I think, should also be out there. But this Dracula apparently does. So this Dracula is like, he's ready for his close up. The other Dracula wants to do is starting a travel blog. So it does feel like all the Draculas at least have different interests now that they're in the real world. But they all do seem to have the same personality, which is like kind of depressing. A little bit of a Debbie Downer.
So then I have a question. I know we'll talk about Supergirl and Batgirl. I have a lot of Dracula questions.
Honestly, I'm mostly here for Dracula.
So if he is alone, because that's one of the things that I really liked about this issue, and I'll tie it into Supergirl and Batgirl here, is that what I thought was, because I always like a little something deeper in some of these stories. It's fun that they fight Draculas. It's that I enjoyed that, but I like the idea that they've tied Brian Q. Miller ties Dracula's loneliness to Stephanie and what Stephanie and Kara are going through, and they can fight their loneliness as superheroes because they can team up and do things together, or they can just be friends and hang out together. And so they sort of make a pinky swear pact at the end that if they are ever alone, they can call each other, and one of them can go where the other one is and hang out, and they can be friends. And I really liked that. I thought that was really cool. But I guess for the Draculas, though, wouldn't the solution for the Dracula's loneliness would be for all the 24 Draculas to hang out together?
I think, listen, this is sort of a missed opportunity. Like some of them were hanging out together. They were all at the fair on the Ferris wheel.
Yeah, they were having a good time.
I like to imagine that they were all like crammed into one of those little carts. And then Batgirl and Supergirl like came in and they were like, oh no.
Like they were enjoying
like they were all like, hey, like pointing to things, Maybe one had a big thing of cotton candy. They were sharing. Yeah, it does feel like with 24 of, a kind of copy of yourself, you could just really have a good time and like argue. Like they probably wouldn't argue about what to do because they're kind of all the same Dracula.
Yeah.
So they're probably all into the same things, finding a bride, complaining, blood. I think that all the Draculas should have just hung out together. I think that this is a great idea and really would help with the loneliness of being Dracula, because now you're not the only Dracula, buddy. There's more Draculas.
And all the Draculas understand what you're going through. Everybody has that same loneliness. And I think even if you got annoyed with some of the other Draculas, there'd be some other Draculas you're probably like
24 of them.
Yeah, Dracula 6 and 7. You're like, they're cool. I'll go hang out with them.
I do not care for Dracula 10, but Dracula 12, my bro. Mind the Gap says that's the basis of What We Do in the Shadows. Have you seen any of What We Do in the Shadows?
I don't think so. What is What We Do in the Shadows?
So it was a mockumentary movie where it's like a bunch of
I have heard of this. I think
it's
my
a bunch
friend
of
Mike has been
vampires,
telling me about this.
and like werewolves that like live together. The movie I thought was pretty good. I thought it was pretty funny, but then they made a TV show adaptation of it, that went on that like ran on FX. That is so funny. One of the vampires is an energy vampire, and the way that he feeds is just like annoying you or like boring you to death. It's really good.
That sounds
they all live in
enjoyable.
Staten Island.
Oh,
they like
that's
make
specific.
friends with their like Staten Island neighbor.
So the neighbor's cool with just having like vampires around? Does he
I
know, or does
for
he
a
or
while
she
he
know?
doesn't know that they're
Okay.
vampires. They have a Super Bowl party, but they think it's the superb owl
Oh yes,
instead of a
that
Super
makes
Bowl,
sense.
and they're
Yeah.
like, "Where is the owl?" It's a great show. Highly recommend it.
I think someone should have a superb owl contest.
I think if these Draculas had met up with the What We Do in the Shadows Draculas or vampires, they would have had a great time. So maybe what they needed to do was like a roommate situation where they all get in a house together, like real world style.
Yeah, I would be into that. Meanwhile, though, the actions taken in the comic are Supergirl and Batgirl use these what did they say they were? Control rods to destabilize the Dracula's photo matrices. So basically, instead of letting the Draculas find companionship with each other, Supergirl and Batgirl go around and basically stake them to death so that they die, essentially. So that's not maybe the greatest way for them to go about it, but this was the solution that they were informed by this guy who I guess was a TA at Gotham City University.
Yeah, I like that he's like, please don't make me go back and be a TA again.
So this TA from the university has created 24 Draculas. I think his career should be over. I think he's done. I don't think you need to let that guy be in this field anymore.
I feel like maybe we don't put him in the lab anymore.
Yeah.
I do feel bad for him that he might have to go back to being a TA. I like the assumption that being a TA is worse than unleashing 24 Draculas. He's like, please God, please don't make me go
anything
TA.
but that.
Anything but I can't grade another paper.
I think once you create 24 Draculas, I think you
just got to find another line of work at that point.
I think you're stuck at being a TA. I'm sorry to bring it to you. So yeah, they go around and they handle business. They get it taken care of, and they do it together. Supergirl and Batgirl. They get rid of all of these 24 Draculas together, and all things seem to be fine after that. But it seems like a pretty typical night in Gotham City. I don't think this is totally out of the blue for them. The one question I had about getting rid of the Draculas is the goop.
Yeah,
where did
the goop come from?
I was confused about the green goop that emerged. That looked like it was coming out of the Draculas.
Yeah,
is it like coming from within?
I was a little confused about the goop situation too, because right after the Dracula escapes from the theater, the first Dracula escapes from the theater, he's fighting Supergirl, and then there's just goop. And it seems to come from nowhere.
I think it's because of Batgirl's batarangs. She throws batarangs at him.
Oh, so maybe the batarangs are like goopy, like they release goop and like
either the batarangs release goop or like the impact. Well, no, I think it's the.
No, I think you're right about the batarangs. I didn't notice the little. I mean, the problem is that Dracula is in black and white, and so the batarangs are also black.
They're a little silver,
and it does, it does a little bit sort of melt into the Dracula and kind of didn't stand out to me. But now that I'm looking at it with you having mentioned it, I see that there's like several batarangs on Dracula the first time the goop pops up. So I think that the goop is coming out of the batarangs and is like maybe goop that like keeps him in place, like sticks him in one place
that
so
makes
he can't
sense.
move.
I think that could be right because the other times when they stake the vampires, there's no more goop.
Yeah, there's only goop one other place after they stake the first vampire, the first Dracula, and it's when they're when they're outside of the ice cream place eating ice cream. They have gooped a Dracula to stake.
Could that
after
just be
they're
that
done.
same vampire that they just like taken with them, I guess, to the ice cream parlor?
I don't think so, just because I think the future TA stakes the first gooped vampire to kind of show them how the stakes work.
Correct.
And then they kind of go off to go get the other ones. So I think that the one that they goop outside of the ice cream place, they're just sort of taking an ice cream break, and they're like, okay, we'll get to you later because you're not going anywhere.
Okay, that makes a little more sense. So they needed him to stay in place. Okay, so I understand the goop, the green goop a little better.
I'm glad that you brought up the goop because I kind of forgot about it, but it was initially confusing, and I did not realize it came from the batarangs until you were like, I think it might be the batarangs, and I was like, the what?
Okay, so do you have any other thoughts or any other questions you wanted to get to before we talk about the art?
I like the Kara and Stephanie interactions here. I think that they're both really fun. I think that they're both like having a good time. Even before they have to go get a bunch of Draculas, I think that they're having a pretty nice night. And I like this kind of a fun version of Kara who is like, you got to let loose a little bit. You gotta cut it up. Like, yeah, sure. Sometimes we're both lonely and we've been through stuff, but we have each other and we can always call each other. And I like that they have that like little piece of character development like through their like bond in this one.
Yeah, and I like that Kara is encouraging Stephanie to enjoy the college life, like to go out and do things. Not that spending time with her mom and playing Scrabble is a bad waste of a night, but she's trying to encourage her that you're in college, you're a college student, go and do college things. And so I like that she's encouraging her in that way. And I think it's also helpful for Kara to have a friend that she can come and visit when nothing's going on and she gets a little bored. She's lonely too. So I do like this, especially because the Supergirl Batgirl dynamic has always been a big one since, I'm trying to think if it goes back into the Silver Age. But I definitely think it starts really pretty hefty in like the 80s where Supergirl and Batgirl really became friends. And so I like that even here with this is not Barbara Gordon, but this is a Batgirl, and it's still that same kind of dynamic where these two characters from two totally different cities who have a two totally different outlooks and missions can be friends. And so I think that's always a nice way to play that up. And so I like the idea that this issue ends. It's kind of a one shot. There's an ending to it, but it does give the impression to me that like they would continue to have this relationship and friendship even after the story ends, that they would still hang out together and help each other out when they need to. So I like the way that ends because it gives this feeling that their friendship would continue. And so I like that a lot. Okay, so the art in this one, I was curious, Morgan, which panels or pages did you happen to think were interesting to you?
Yeah, I mostly like the art. The one thing I will say is I did feel like Kara and Stephanie sometimes looked like the same
Yeah.
person. And I think that because of that, they have Kara with like her hair in a ponytail and like glasses on, which is not necessarily like anything out of the ordinary. We see Kara with glasses all the time, but I did kind of feel like they had Kara with the glasses on because they were like, oh, these two blonde, superheroes outside of their costumes kind of look the same. And I do wish that the art style had been like a little bit different for both of their faces, so
Yeah.
that when Kara doesn't have her hair up in a ponytail, it would be hard for me, I think, to tell the difference between the two of them.
Yeah, it's especially similar on page 12 when there's a nice panel of Supergirl doing a shirt rip. In that panel, Kara and Stephanie, like the faces look very similar. They almost look like the same person.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that is a fair criticism to this. That the biggest differences are the glasses and the hair being up, and then Kara's wearing a skirt and Stephanie's wearing jeans. And
Yeah,
that's kind of the big difference.
it's even in the I think it's page 21 where they're both staking the final Dracula together, like side by side. Their faces look remarkably similar, even though um Stephanie in this shot has like the Batgirl cowl on. So I just kind of wish that they had done something a little bit different to kind of have them look like two different people instead of being like, uh-oh, they're both blonde.
I think Stephanie maybe could have dyed her hair red
Yeah.
like other Batgirls. Maybe that would have helped.
We gotta differentiate
yeah.
them. I think that there's like I've seen enough comic art where like even though people have the same hair color or something like that, they look different in the face. And I think that the issue with this issue is just that they both have kind of similar faces. And then they both have the same hair. So it's like really hard when they're like running around. I was like, wait, who is from the back? I'm like, okay, thank God Kara's got a ponytail.
Yeah, they probably needed that to help differentiate. I do think that is a fair criticism of the art, is that they're just too similar. Even the panels where they do have the glasses on Kara, it is still they're very similar. So I don't think it does enough. I think it really tries, but I don't think it does enough. I will say though that there were some panels in here that I really liked. There's a top panel on page 12 where it has the 3D glasses with the red and the blue lenses in the glasses that are used to show that the Draculas are coming out of the 3D. And I really enjoy that panel where it shows half of the Draculas in blue, half the Draculas in red. So I think that's a cool way to show that they are kind of coming out of the movie and into the theater. So I really enjoyed that. Even though it's a tiny, small panel, I really liked that one quite a lot. So I wasn't crazy about a lot of the art in this. It did do the job, I think. But that was probably my favorite panel amongst all of them.
Yeah, I like that one a lot too. I also like the 2-page spread we talked about substantially on page 17 where it's them fighting all the different Draculas, like the comic not the comic strip, the photo strip and the segue and the plane ticket. It was really telling a story that honestly I wanted to see more of. I was like, wait, plane ticket? He was trying to go to Prague. But I do think it gave you like a fun montagey feeling in those 2 pages, which is fun. It's not easy to do in I think a comic book format, but I really did feel like if I was like watching this on TV, that this would be the montage segment, and we'd have like some fun music over it as they were like staking vamps.
I would enjoy watching that if it was a television show. Now I have a question, since you brought up the Prague ticket. Dracula going through TSA. Is that
Dracula's like, what do you mean, my shoes?
But what about the thing where you have to step into it and like it's like a body scan thing?
Yeah, that's right.
Would that be a problem for
Dracula's
him?
like, I have pre-check. Dracula has global entry. Do you think he did all his paperwork in advance? What if he got there and they're like, okay, can we see your passport? And he was like, what? I am Dracula.
There's just so many ways, even if he did buy that ticket. Like, I don't think he's getting on that plane.
He's not getting on that plane. He doesn't have a passport. I don't think he's making it through security.
Yeah. I know. So I have all these questions now about the air travel time. Like, is he checking a bag? What's he putting in a suitcase?
Oh my God. What if he's like, this is my suitcase? And they're like, I'm sorry, sir, that is a coffin. You can't have that on the plane. He's like, it fits. And like, certainly it does not fit in the overhead.
Is he trying to shove it in the overhead?
He's on the plane. He's trying to shove it in. He's like, why? What? These are too small. They're like, I'm sorry, you have to check it. He's like, but it's carry-on. I just like kind of want a day in the life of Dracula now, where he's just trying to do things, and it's all just like not good. It's all bureaucracy he's like never experienced before.
Okay, we have another comic we gotta write.
Day in the life of Dracula.
I think this is a good story that we should flesh out. A traveling world traveler, Dracula. I think we could write it.
Dracula's trying to like figure out conversion rates for like, what do you mean? I have money.
Trying to speak to people in different languages. Having frustrating times with Google Translate or something.
Yeah.
So I think that is a story worth telling, because that would be interesting to see how Dracula might get around. Is he using Rick Steves' books? I don't know.
Oh, that would be amazing. He's like, Steve said this is good restaurant. He said no garlic. Trying to send it back to the kitchen.
Next time,
leaving a negative Yelp review.
Next time, Kat has a Kickstarter and an anthology series, and it's about Draculas.
That's what I'm gonna do.
Morgan, you have to write that story.
I'm gonna pitch Kat a new anthology. It's like, it's all just Draculas, but it's him going to different locations.
Dracula travel stories is what we're aiming for. I like this. Okay, so this issue of Batgirl number 14. Morgan, would you recommend this to people if they're Supergirl fans? Should they read this?
I think so. I think this is a fun one. I think if you like Supergirl, if you like Batgirl, if you like a kind of a fun, silly time, this is a really fun one-off, and you don't actually need to know pretty much anything to go into it. And if after you're reading this, you're just like, that was fun, that's all I want, you it's really divorced from the whole run. It's very much a one shot. So I think, if you're looking for a Supergirl themed spooky season read, this is a great one to just to pick up and read.
Yeah, I think this was a good one, a fun one to read for spooky season, and to talk about a Supergirl story we had never discussed here on Supergirl Radio before. So it's a nice beginning, middle, and end one-shot story that I think you could just pick up and read and have a good time checking out. So I am glad we discussed it on the podcast. It gives us another version of Supergirl and a Supergirl Batgirl story, which is always fun to dig into. So I'm glad that we could discuss it for this spooky season. So thank you for discussing that with me, because I think we covered most of it. I think we really discussed it at length, and then some, probably more than other people might have.
We discussed a lot of Dracula logistics. I feel like the other podcasts just aren't covering.
You're gonna get a real unique discussion here on Supergirl Radio.
That's our guarantee.
So a really good spooky season, Halloween horror movie kind of feel to this issue. So I'm glad we could cover it here on the podcast. Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode of Supergirl Radio. If you'd like to contact us, you can post a comment on our website at supergirlradio.com. You can email us at supergirlradio@gmail.com. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on X and Instagram, all at Supergirl Radio. If you like what we do, we encourage you to give us a rating and write us a review on Apple Podcasts or anywhere you listen to podcasts where they have reviews. Supergirl Radio is part of the DCTV Podcast and Multiverse of Color Network, so go check those out. You can hang out with us as we go live and wired on Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern on the DCTV Podcast YouTube channel, so make sure you are subscribed to get our notifications. DCTV Podcast also has a TeePublic store, so if you're in need of some new DC Comics, DC TV related t-shirts, tank tops, sweatshirts, magnets, tote bags, pins, phone cases, pillows, stickers, or shorts now, I think they have. Go to supergirlradio.com and click on the TeePublic store at the top of the page.
And since we've been talking about Supergirl's team up with Batgirl, we have some Batgirl designs in the DC TV Podcast TeePublic store that we would like to suggest.
Yeah, we have Batgirl. Fittingly, there is a Batgirl design that is spooky season, that it has her with a jack-o'-lantern, a pumpkin that has been carved. So we do have Halloween themed Batgirl designs in the TeePublic store. So if you are a big Batgirl fan, we've got some stuff that you can check out. So it's good to have some Batgirl in there with all the other characters that we have designs for. So check that out in the store if you would like. We would also like to thank our Legion of Super Sponsors for supporting the Supergirl Radio Patreon. These people are Michael, Sam, Anne-Marie, Yvonne, Nicola, Abby, Miriam, Nicole, Brian, Ethan, Majuba, Annie, Rachel, and Kit. If you would also like to become a Legion of Super Sponsor, you can go to patreon.com/Supergirl Radio. And we are going to be discussing Scream 3, which is my favorite of the Scream trilogy, because I don't acknowledge that other Scream things exist.
Ooh.
There is only the trilogy for me. So I think this one is my favorite. So I'm excited to hear Morgan's take on it. She may disagree with me. I don't know, but we'll see what she has to say about Scream 3 on the Patreon. So if you want to hear our discussion on that, you can go to patreon.com/Supergirl Radio. And if you would like to hang out with me on the interwebs, you can find me in a couple places. I'm on Vero, True Social at Derby Kid. I'm on Instagram at The Derby Kid. You can find my personal YouTube channel at youtube.com/DuckMilkProd. I'm also a voice, a narrator in a new Bill Meeks story in the Everly Heights universe. So if you subscribe to the Everly Heights podcast feed, I believe my episode is called something like The Play's the Thing. So I play a theater employee who knows about a seat in the theater that can transport you into a dream world. And so the character I play ends up experimenting and going into the seat and being transformed into her dream world, and tries to fight staying there and coming back to the real world. So if you want to check out Everly Heights, Bill has, for some reason, wanted me to do some acting again. And I'm like, why, Bill? I'm not an actress. So I feel very honored that I'm both in the Fakest and Everly Heights universes. So I'm in the Bill Meeks podcast universe, I guess, multiple times. So if you want to check out my latest attempt at acting, you can subscribe to the Everly Heights podcast.
That's awesome. I'm definitely going to listen to that.
I don't have big expectations. I'm not an actress, but
they're all the way up here.
But I did have fun doing it.
And you can find me on the Legendary Ladies podcast as a co-host, where we just released our episode, I believe, on Sinners, but we'll also the movie Sinners that came out earlier this year. Speaking of spooky vampires, and we'll also be having an episode on 10 Cloverfield Lane. So we're doing our spooky season. We also have planned an episode about the new Frankenstein movie, the Guillermo del Toro Frankenstein, as soon as it comes out on Netflix, because it's coming out on Netflix like next week sometime. So we were going to try to all go out to the movies to see it. And then I was like, wait, it's coming to Netflix in like a week? Okay.
Just watch it on Netflix, I guess.
Sure.
That's good to know. I think I would be into a Frankenstein Guillermo del Toro movie. I'll have to check that out.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see how it is. I think that he usually does at least very visually cool movies. So we'll see how it goes.
I've also heard really good things about Sinners. I'll have to.
Oh, it's great.
Is
Yeah.
it like super scary, or am I gonna?
No,
like,
honestly,
okay.
I don't think it's very. I didn't think it was
Okay.
very scary.
You're
And so-
also very like desensitized to horror.
yeah, that is true. But I will say, as like taking a step back, I didn't think it was all that scary of a
Okay.
movie. It's
Okay.
there are some. It's more like tense than it
okay.
is scary, I'd
Okay.
say. Although I did tell my mom, I was like, oh, we went to go see it. I think in like the summertime or whenever it came out, and we were like, oh my God, you guys, Sinner's so good. And my mom went into it without knowing anything about it. And then she was like, that movie was about vampires. I was like, oh yeah. Did you not know that? Did you not know that? I was like, no. Halfway through, I was like, oh. Because it's kind of a period piece. So I could see if you didn't know that like the vampires were coming, like you might get halfway through the movie and be like, wait a minute.
This is gonna be a hot take, but one of my favorite vampire movies, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
See, I have not seen that.
I think it is an underrated movie. I think it is visually very cool. And this is also going to be a hot take. I think it is more historically accurate than Steven Spielberg's movie Lincoln.
Twist.
Yes. I think I learned more about actual Abraham Lincoln from Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter than I did from Steven Spielberg's movie.
For instance, I didn't know he was a vampire hunter.
And now you know.
Now I'm putting that on the list though.
I
do
actually
remember
liked
when
it.
it came out, people were like, you'll be surprised. It's like actually pretty fun. And I was like, oh, really?
Yeah, I liked it. He uses an axe to hunt the vampires because, he grew up in like a log cabin.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's great. I would watch more Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
We got to start
movies.
a whole franchise.
Make that TV show. I would watch that.
Abe the Vampire Hunter.
So I don't watch a lot of vampire things, but I like that one.
I'm a sucker for a good vampire thing. So like as soon as you're like, first off, Abe is amazing. I was like, okay, love you, Abe. And then vampires, sure. I've watched so many questionable quality vampire things. I've watched them all. The Vampire Diaries, Twilight, True Blood. I've seen them all. Yeah. There is not a vampire well that I have not visited.
Didn't you also watch Being Human with Sam Witwer as a vampire?
Being Human. Yeah, I did watch Being Human as well. Did I finish all these shows? Not necessarily, but I did at some point watch them. So as a vampire connoisseur, I think in order to be
to
watch Abe,
if you're gonna be like a completist,
yes,
you need to watch Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. I think you need to have that in your repertoire.
I think so too. It's an expanding repertoire, and I have to, I have to make sure I watch everything.
You want to be an expert in these fields.
Exactly.
Being Human, I think I've maybe told you before, but for the podcast listeners that maybe don't know, Being Human was the only time I have ever cried over the wedding of two werewolves.
It's specific, but those werewolves were in love.
I was like, you've got to get it together, Rebecca. This is not this serious. This is two werewolves.
It's just so beautiful how they found each other.
I was like, I'm an emotionally sensitive person, so I'm not surprised. But I did cry over a werewolf wedding. I don't cry at real weddings.
But the werewolf kind?
The werewolf wedding, I did cry tears over that. I did think that was beautiful.
Mind the Gap wants to know if we've seen Let the Right One In.
I don't know what that is.
Now I can't remember what country it was from originally. I want to say the original was like Scandinavian. Let the Right One In. It was from 2008. So
A Swedish,
Stockholm, Swedish.
Swedish romantic horror film.
Yeah, it's I've seen the original Swedish version, and then they came out with like a newer one, like an American version. The American version I don't think I've seen, although I maybe did. My memory is that like I heard that they were very similar, so it's possible I did see the American version, and they just kind of both melded into one version of the movie for me. But yes, I saw it. It's very good. It's like very spooky. I remember watching the preview for it and being like really creeped out and be like, oh my God, I don't know if I can handle that. But the actual movie itself is like, it's creepy and like atmospheric, but it's not as scary as the preview was. And the preview freaked me out.
Yeah, I don't know that I could watch creepy ones, but I can watch Abraham Lincoln use that.
Yeah, I should we all.
I don't know that I can go too creepy and too scary, but that's good to know about because I did not know about it. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, some of those horror movies from overseas, like they go hard. Like The Ring started out as like a
the Japanese,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
the Japanese horror movies, some of those Japanese horror movies are not playing in like a way that I can't follow them. You know,
I don't think I am made for those kinds of movies. They are too scary.
I'm like sweating watching them.
I can only handle it if you put a little goofiness in. That is the only way I can get through it.
That's why the Scream movies are perfect.
Those are the only horror movies I love, or the Scream. So yeah, all right. So I think we'll have some things to look forward to with the Legendary Ladies and with the Supergirl Radio Patreon if you are interested in that. But I think that's going to do it for this episode of Supergirl Radio. So until next time, I'm still Rebecca Johnson.
And I'm still Morgan Glennon, and nothing is sadder than a crying Dracula.
McGurk! I love typing.
Not mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira. I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom. Because
she looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. So fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Yeah!